Nigeria. To lead this conversation is Mr. Teslim Shittabey, the managing editor of Proshare Nigeria. Mr. Teslim, good morning.
Hello, good morning also. It's a pleasure being with you this morning.
Good morning. And with me here to join this conversation and really make it very interesting is my special guest co-anchor, Mr. Bolson Omofaye, CEO of Africa Reports.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us here. As we all know, the subnationals are very critical in ensuring that pandemics are mitigated. They also play a big role in ensuring that the economies are stabilized. And so we'll be taking this conversation, understanding that it's very critical in Nigeria at this point.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
I think we need to look at context. I will do a kind of a funnel analysis, looking at it from the perspective of the federal institutions, then we'll do that to the states, and then perhaps the local governments.
Thank you very much.
What is the context? In what is the situation in a major health pandemic, as well as a massive economic challenge? Now, the health pandemic, of course, is as a result of the coronavirus. That has led to several lockdowns globally, and it has also resulted in supply chain disruptions. And this has meant that economies have not been able to grow as fast as they would like. It also has meant that revenues from the different levels of government has shrunk, especially for Q1 2020. Now, let's take Nigeria specifically. The budget for 2020 was premised on $57 per barrel initially, and that was before the COVID incident. And then subsequently, on realization that the COVID is most likely to have adverse effects on our ability to generate revenue, we revised that budget down, and therefore we premised it on an oil price, international oil price of $30 per barrel. Obviously, that poses a lot of problems, because we had a budget that was in excess of 10 trillion naira, and we're shrinking it to below that, to about 8 trillion naira. And in a situation where we also had to look at issues concerning our slow pace of growth in 2019, which ended the year at 2.27%. Q4 2019 was at 2.55%. That was pretty slow when compared to a population growth rate of about 3%. So obviously, we needed to expand the budget, grow critical sectors of the economy, and hope that we can reduce the rate of unemployment, which at Q3 2018 was quite high at 23.1%, including underemployment, which was at 20.1%. And when you combine underemployment and unemployment, Nigeria had a lot of people who were not doing anything productive, or who were only marginally productive, to the tune of 43.2% of the population, and that's quite large. So at a national level, the COVID had created problems. Unfortunately, layered on top of that was the problem of the squabble between Russia and Saudi Arabia concerning oil price. Now, that oil price squabble has resulted into a major disruption in plans of OPEC and even non-OPEC countries. And that means that revenue flows from the oil sector is likely to be much lower. That's going to create a massive problem, fiscal problem in Nigeria in particular, and other OPEC countries that are quite vulnerable. Okay, so if we look at the national squeeze, most state governments in Nigeria have depended on the Federation Account Allocation, what we tend to call FAC. Most state governments depend heavily on FAC, and indeed, most of them depend on FAC between 70 to 90% of their monthly revenues, except Lagos State, that has been able to reverse the order, where Lagos State depends on its internally generated revenue, IGR, to 70%, and perhaps depends on FAC to the tune of about 30%. Now, that means that at the subnational levels, with a shrinking in the volume of FAC revenues that are likely to come in 2020, state governments are also going to see a massive shrink in their own revenues. And if that happens, we can begin to get worried about all kinds of things. Employment levels at the state level, we're going to be concerned about things like stability of healthcare, stability of the education sector, social stability generally. I'm sure most of us are aware that with the COVID lockdown, we're seeing vulnerable youth who are dependent on daily revenues, going to the streets, terrorizing neighborhoods. So there's this massive social challenge in respect of the decline in revenues right from the federal to the state and perhaps the local governments.
And so, Mr. Teslim, when you look at the fact that these are the revenue challenges and there are sustainability challenges for the states, the COVID-19 pandemic, when you look at the spread across states, you're looking at Kano now among the top 5 states with high cases in Nigeria, looking at Lagos as the highest case, and looking at states like Oyo also coming into that plane. This is a time for the governors to build consensus and see how they can engage all critical stakeholders to mitigate this risk. What would you be saying to this aspect? It's very critical at this point because the transmission, the outbreak, if not managed at the state level, would really impact Nigeria.
I think that's a very interesting question, and it's a question we need to address frontally. Our fiscal arrangements have been a bit of a challenge. So far, Nigeria has run a central command system where everything comes from the federal account. It comes from the top and it's pushed down. I'm not too sure that's the most effective way of running a system as complex as Nigeria's and as diverse in terms of the economies of the various states, the revenue sources of the various states, as well as the culture of the people. I would have thought that Nigeria would have been better run where you had a more disaggregated approach to fiscal management as well as certain other areas of social management. But your question, speaking to your question, the state governments are going to have to engage one another. And for me, if we're not going to legally or physically readjust the way we run ourselves in the country, we might have to do it on the premise of agreements amongst states. Now, let me give you an example. The southwestern states have what they call the Dawn Commission, okay? Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. Now, the Dawn Commission could provide some kind of platform for a regional strategy to handle a certain issue like COVID. Because you take Lagos. Lagos and Ogun State are contiguous. So what impacts Lagos is most likely to affect Ogun State. And that's why you can see the wisdom in the federal government deciding that, look, if we're going to have to lock down Lagos as the epicenter of COVID-19 in Nigeria, then we're also going to have to take care of Ogun State. Because, of course, there's going to be a spillover effect. Adverse consequences of what's happening in Lagos will definitely affect Ogun. Now, if there are benefits or good consequences, it will also affect Ogun. We've seen that in the area of industrialization of Ogun State. So I think that the governments in various regions need to come together and adopt a comprehensive regional approach towards some of these challenges. You can't say, okay, I'm Lagos, I'll take care of my own business, every other person can take care of theirs. It won't work because there's a lot of trade and personnel movement between the various states. And so what affects one will definitely affect the other. So the best approach is what you seem to have essentially referred to. Get the state governments to come together, adopt a regional strategy that fits into a broad national agenda. The faster we do this, the better. And one of the good advantages of this is this. Just take the Southwest, just as an example. It can be replicated in other parts of the country. Now, you have Lagos that has seemingly a large amount of cash flow. And you have other states that may be weaker in cash flow. Lagos can provide the cash, while those other states provide the human resources, the land, and any other resource that might be required to achieve specific objectives. You could see that happening in the area of healthcare, for instance. We could do it in healthcare, we could do it in agriculture, we could do it in housing, we could do it in industry. Okay? We have a regional approach towards managing our lives. I think that's it's a more practical approach towards things, given the way we are now. And I think it's the way to go thinking forward.
Okay, Mr. Teslim. Now, looking at the Federal Account Allocation Committee payout for March last month, it was 582 billion naira. This was published on Proshare, and this was a decline of 65 billion naira from the previous month. And that shows that there are mounting fiscal pressures on the state. So we're looking at now how these revenue challenges can be managed with effective resource management. I'll get to you, Mr. Teslim, but Mr. Boson, mounting fiscal pressures, the payouts for FAC for the month of March, 582 billion naira, a decline by 65 billion naira.
Yes.
This calls for rethinking strategy for the states at this time, coupled with the pandemic that they are facing.
The poor state of the subnationals is not entirely new. We've been through the sing-song for the last 2-3 years or 4. Some of the rating agencies had identified the problems and the fiscal imbalance, the pressures for the subnationals has been well identified. That is beginning to look like Nigeria's underbelly. The Buhari's administration had been very generous in various bailouts, in certain arrangements with the central bank, in certain arrangements with the Ministry of Finance. They put in pressure on the market. And within last year, you've seen about 3 or 4 state governors coming to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Ekiti State, I think a few other states had come around, Osun State,
yes.
and Edo State as well, yes. Coming to approach engage the market, professionals and issuers and others and say, look, we can work with you, we want to use the market. It's been a couple of years since the governor, state governors, some of them were coming to the market. In fact, I never thought they were going to come back. But a few of them had some bonds which are floated on the market, so they're looking for extra ways of making money. The approach of just using the FARC to get more funds from the banks is beginning to narrow. So they went to the central bank provided some guarantee. Minister of Finance also gave some money. There was a bit of a clawback from the Paris Club overcharge, which was a lot of money. All this runs into trillions of naira. But now, nearly all the state governments are down on all fours. Even this Lagos state that is rich in IGR has just gone back to his bond program and it's just done a fresh about 100 billion or so out of that. So, which means that even Lagos state can feel some pressure on its own revenue as well. Then it has a lot of work to do on the infrastructure side. Roads have to be built. The rail lines are not yet up and running. They haven't been concluded. Major roads exiting the city are all in dire state. Ikorodu, for example, if you use Badagry, that is also in the Palo state. If you go through Ikeja Airport, Lagos Abeokuta Expressway is in the Palo state. So all the major exits of Lagos, which are major highways, Lagos Ibadan, another one, they are not in good state at all. So Lagos state has a lot of work on his hands, which Ambode was doing before Governor Sanwo-Olu took over. So Lagos is also under pressure to fix infrastructure that will help, okay, because of the man hours that all of us, Mr. Teslim and the rest of us are spending every day trying to find our way around the city. So there's no single state government in Nigeria today that has, that is breathing very easily, as it were. Then you look at the ease of doing business, which PEBEC has been trying to do, trying to get states to be part of domestic direct investment, which the NIPC is working on. Yewande, Sadiku, and the rest of our team are working on. And you've seen some progress, a few sprinkled states. But I think there's a new thinking among the states themselves to realize that their backs are now up against the wall. Like Teslim said, there's a limit to which the big brother, Uncle Ben in Abuja, will be able to bail them out. So you've seen the Edo State government, for example, under Obaseki, talking about industrial park and what have you. You've seen Kaduna State,
ports
and seaport. You've seen Ondo State also working on the seaport and try to get an economic zone up and running. Ogun State they are talking to the World Bank. Ekiti State is talking to the EFDB. Some states around the central Benue Plateau also are working on agriculture for potato, I guess, production and more with the EFDB, the African Development Bank Nigeria office. So it looks like everybody's on the field right now. So I agree with him. that the structure upon which we have the big brother federal government creating states during the military era is now coming to bite all of us at the back end, because states were just created not because they were fiscally viable, but they were good for political reasons. Now that's what the military days.
Yes.
Then they're now being used to leverage elections. So in which it becomes a political tool. Yeah. Now they've never been an economic tool to serve the federal and serve themselves. So we need to go back to the basis upon which states were created and the basis upon which we can have some cooperation and partnerships. So Lagos State and Kebbi State working on Lake Rice, that's good, but we can do a lot far more. So I agree with the regional integration approach, that we need to quickly break everything down. The Governors Forum ought to be a force for economic and social renaissance, rather than just being a group that politically pressurized the executive to get their ways done on the various political front, and then the next electoral cycle comes and everybody goes back to the trenches, get themselves re-elected, put their guys in there, in the Senate, in the House of Reps. Then at the end of the day, everybody sits in Abuja. See, Lagos and Abuja has more real estates in the pocket of state governments than they have real estate that has value in their home states, perhaps with the exception of Lagos.
No.
Almost every state in Nigeria have posh hotels, posh real estate, shopping malls in Abuja,
even liaison
offices that worth
really
billions of naira. Then you go to the state capitals and other townships across the state, what do you find? So I can't understand the economic, and I'm sure I defer to Mr. Teslim here, if you can help me understand why, if a state governor, for example, serves the state for 8 years, you need to build him a real estate property in Abuja, which is the federal capital. I've not seen any country where state governors stay more at the country's political capital than at their respective states. I have not seen anywhere. Maybe anyone has an idea. Mr. Teslim, good morning.
Mr. Teslim, you heard what Mr. Bolson has said.
Yes.
So in addition to... Okay, go on. You can go on.
These comments have been quite brilliant, actually. My thoughts precisely. You see, the thing is, we've had what someone once called a feeding bottle economy, where the states were convenient political constructs, and they were tools by which politicians were able to get themselves elected, get access to state resources, and do whatever they want to do. Now, the chickens are coming home to roost. We got to have states that are viable and sustainable. How many states really are, given the current situation? Very few of them. Very, very few of them. Even Lagos State that we tend to look up to and say, well, yeah, Lagos State is quite brilliant, it's a good state. Yes, it is. But it has its own massive problems, like Bolson has rightly pointed out. I mean, Lagos State, if we've just mentioned some figures now, but the thing about it is that if you've noticed, even Lagos State's IGR has declined quarter on quarter. Okay? And that tells you a lot. In a COVID environment, where are they going to get the monies from hospitality industry? Where are you going to get the money from the airports? Where are you going to get the money from logistics and transportation? So IGR is going to shrink. And Lagos State is going to start having to rethink its economy and rethink its processes of generating income. And that rings true for every other state in the Federation. We've got to be forward thinking. We've got to look at a post-COVID reality. Because we're not good. I hear people talking about, okay, things will return to normal. What is the normal? There is no normal. What you have is a new reality. And we've got to think into that reality and decide what we want to do within that reality. Because the truth is, the world is not going back to where it was in Q4 2019. Now, to answer one of the very interesting points that Bolson mentioned, where states, you see states actually having huge investments outside their territory, while they're having some challenges within their states themselves that they need to address. I want to defer to an argument raised recently during one of your programs by Dr. Teriba, that we need to ensure greater amount of systemic liquidity. What does that mean? That means that if we have assets that are not generating economic value to the benefit of the state's treasury, let us sell off those assets. Take the funds and reinvest them in other opportunities that will generate a stream of cash flows that will benefit the lives of the citizens of that state. And this is why I think it's a bit funny that we're having states that have luxurious hotels and other businesses that unfortunately are not run profitably. They're not run profitably. In fact, some of them, I'm aware, are still subsidized by the state. And I don't want to mention specific states, but there are some that they're still getting money from the states to keep those organizations or establishments running. Now, I would have thought the most sensible thing to do would be to say, you know what, this thing is not working. We set it up as a commercial enterprise to enhance our revenues. It's not doing that. What to do? We sell it off. We get lazy. Then we clearly identify opportunities within the state borders that will create employment within that state. Because don't forget, when you create employment, you also create income. When you create income, you create taxes. And those taxes also help the state to create more opportunities. So it's a loop. And you've got to integrate that loop sensibly and strategically. Okay? So most of the states have got to put their ego aside. If they have to sell some of the assets they have in some of the places like Abuja, they should do so. Okay? Improve liquidity and invest in strategic assets that generate sustainable cash flows for the state. Now, let me just give you a context here. You have a state like Osun State. Osun State, as at 2016, if I get the numbers correctly, is roughly 5 million people. Now, of those 5 million people, we're talking about 2.4 million of them being either employed in the public sector or in activities related to the public sector. In a situation where FAC declines, because the state depends on FAC for most of its revenues, when FAC declines, what happens to these 2.4 million people whose livelihoods depend on FAC? Ogun State is not too, well, it is better because it has a lot of industries. But if you look at its fiscal structure, you're also seeing a high level of dependence on FAC and a huge public service. I'm of the opinion that we've got to get to a point where we can trim our public service, upscale the quality of human capital within each state, and provide them with the resources to generate private entrepreneurship. They become private entrepreneurs. You've got to get through a program where, while you're in the state, we groom you. We take you through a series of training that prepares you for a post-civil service life. So the civil service becomes slimmer but more efficient, while it also incubates public servants to create value, from which the state will also generate income. Because don't forget, if you have more smaller enterprises growing with more income coming in, the state earns money by way of tax. So I think we've got to rethink this whole federation, rethink subnationals, and make efficiency, effectiveness, and value proposition the center of everything we do. It's like a company. There must be returns to shareholders. There must be what we call ROE, return to equity. Now, a person who lives within a state is a shareholder in that state. And therefore, resources of that state should generate returns for everybody within the state. So, this governor is actually a CEO who has to use the resources of the state in such an efficient manner that there is a return on the resources that were generated by the state. The feeding bottle state that era has passed. There's no feeding bottle anymore. Even the person who was giving you the milk needs sustenance. He's weak, he's vulnerable. So we've got to find ways of improving state revenue, improving local government revenue, and we'll get to that point because I think the local governments are also subnationals that have been put on the sideline and have not been activated. The full potential has not been activated. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that for now.
You see, the key issue, and I agree with Teslim very widely for his views. Part of the issue, the problems here is that these ideas are on the table. But how to reduce the public or civil service, the size across the subnationals, becomes a very political question. We all know that. Almost every state in Nigeria keeps a very large civil service and public service for the elections. Yes. For electoral purposes, it's an open secret. So I'm not saying anything brilliant here. We all know why they keep very large places, so that they can help mobilize votes during the elections. That's the reason why. I can't find any other reason. Because the majority of these civil servants are paid to the lowest level of wages. So you go through every state government secretariat, everybody is milling around. From a single gate that could be manned by 2 people, you find about 10 or 15. You go around local government, a single gate that takes you in and out of a certain local government is manned by about 6, 7, 8 people, no single computer, no electron, no whatever. It's just to open the gate and close it, about 6, 7 individuals hanging around the gate. Then you find people selling all kinds of things. Everybody's doing his own business. At the end of the month, we all depend on the government at the center to send down the rain, as it were. So the feeding bottle economy, there's nothing in the feeding bottle anymore. It is getting dry. Even the federal government had been borrowing to pay workers since towards the end of the last administration. So we've been on this a path of infamy, kind of, over a long period of time. Yeah. We just got caught up in our rent-seeking economic behavior rather than being productive. So how do we increase the level of productivity at the states and local government level? The level of industrialization across every state. I think that is what a few government agencies and international agencies like the AFDB is now pursuing across some states. That look, can you harness what you have in your states? If you look at the Ekiti State, for example, to Ondo State, for example, look at states like Ogun State. Some of them have oil and gas. Even in the north, the resources are there. Yeah. But again, how do you industrialize and raise the productivity at the state levels? Some states, as we all know, in the north had textiles. We had steel rolling mills. We had solid minerals, but they are all bogged down because everybody is nice and cool in Abuja, cooling their heels, and all those factories are down. So we need to reindustrialize the subnationals. In other words, get everyone to have a factory, a productive base that depends largely on raw materials that you can source from that particular state. If Kogi State, Kwara, and Ekiti State, for example, has the highest number of yams, and Benue State. So if you want yam powder factories or processing plants and packaging to finish products, don't locate it in Lagos, for example. Don't bring the yam to Lagos. Let the industry be in Kogi State. Let it be in Ekiti State. I mean, from start to finish. So all you need is just to transport the finished and the packaged yam flour to the markets, whether by road or by rail or by air, whatever, cargo, air. So we just need to find a way to reindustrialize. So we can reduce civil service workforce across the subnationals, and I agree with Teslim. But we need to have an economic plan that says we're going to reduce from 20,000 to 10,000. Those 10,000 individuals who are taken off, do a study and a research of them and empower them to go to the farm, to go to raw materials, to go to processing, to go to productive activities, so that the labor unions and others don't shut you down. I think we need to find a creative way of getting out of this cul-de-sac we found ourselves.
Yes, and Mr. Teslim, so he's talking about the creative ways. So if you were in the room sitting with Mr. John Kayode Fayemi, chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, what would you be telling him as 3-4 steps that should be taken? I know they've talked about the CBN putting a hold on the deductions from the transfers that were made to states during this period, and that moratorium is there. But beyond that, what are the creative things that we need to see from states, if you had the opportunity to discuss with the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum?
Okay, also, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think you've made very valid points. Now, coming to the issue of what I would recommend to His Excellency Governor Kayode Fayemi is this. Now, let's take his own state. Ekiti State is a small state, basically landlocked. It has its basic raw materials, perhaps, its basic economic value would be in the area of mineral resources. Okay, I'm aware that there are experiments that have been done in terms of jet rover which is an alternative oil source. At one point in time, cassava was also pushed very strongly in the state, and that was a good thing. That was a good thing. But beyond that, you see, Ekiti State's greatest, I'm just using it as an example, then I want to other states. Ekiti State's greatest value is its human resources. At a point in time in Nigeria, we said that 1 out of every 3 professors in the country is likely to come from Ekiti. Because there was a joke then that, okay, you have Professor Igun, Professor Ajabo, every family had a professor. Now, how come we were not able to translate that tremendous brain power from the ground to the town? How come Ekiti State had such, why couldn't it have leveraged education, for instance, make it a center of excellence in the area of education? And then you would have seen massive educational tourism. We would have seen people coming from other countries to benefit from education, because we provide the best quality of education. Where do we provide it? Ekiti State. Doesn't have to be Lagos. Doesn't have to be Abuja. Ekiti State could use the natural mental strength of its people to generate economic value. And the same applies to other states. Each state has something to put on the table. Now, one of the problems people have said is, oh, where will they get the money? I again go back to what Dr. Teriba had said, over and over again, and that is, why don't you leverage your assets, securitize them, in other words, turn them into tradable instruments that generate income? Also referred to state government bonds. That's another way to go, right? And I decide I want to do education. I want to set up world-class education institution. Is going to be the best in Africa. I raise a bond for it. I'm not raising a bond for general purpose. That's where the problem usually comes in here. Nigerian government say that they're raising revenue bonds. What they are actually raising is general purpose bonds, where I raise money and I start spending the money on specific things that do not have a clear cash flow projection. You're not sure whether it's a social project, whether it's an economic project. But here we can say, you know what, I'm Ekiti State. I'm known for this. I want to raise a top-class African university with the best lecturers on the continent teaching there. And I think I can charge this rate. And then the banks will look at it, or if you do a bond, the bond subscribers will look at it and say, you know what, this is a brilliant idea. So rather than Nigeria spending $1 billion annually in a neighboring country, they've got a better institution that they can patronize at maybe slightly cheaper price in Nigeria. So it depends on, we've got to be very clear-cut about what our objectives are. Who are we? Until we answer the question of who we are and who we want to be, we'll be nothing. We'll simply be drifters. And that's how most of the states are. There is no clear path to where they want to be. There is no clear definition of who they are. And until they can sit down and say, right, folks, where are we and who are we? Okay, who do we want to become? Why do we want to become that? And then we can now start getting people to come in, bring in ideas, because the power is in the ideas. The limitations are not necessarily financial, they are mental. You've got to be very clear about where you want to go. Okay? There's a very interesting book, Who Moved My Cheese, by Spencer Johnson. Now I'm not going to go into the details of the book, but the thing about it is that the two mice that were there, they saw a challenge. They didn't wait. Skiff and Story. They didn't wait. Once they saw the challenge, they were mice, and they responded to natural instinct. There was a challenge. They moved on. They moved on to say, you know what? There's no cheese here anymore. So what do we do? Let's go and look for new cheese. The human beings were asking, who took my cheese? Who moved my cheese? They were still trying to think about the cheese of the past, rather than trying to figure out how they're going to generate cheese in the future. It's a mental issue. Are we mentally prepared to think about the future? And if we are mentally prepared to think about the future, are we mentally prepared to design a path to that future and pursue that path rigorously? Now, let me give you an example of how it works. And it worked quite well in Nigeria in a particular case. There was a particular governor of Lagos State. This governor of Lagos State came into power, and he said, you know what? I'm going to set milestones. I want to achieve this. But to achieve that, I'm going to do a number of things. So I'm going to set milestones. So he says, okay, first 100 days, what do we do? 200 days, what are we supposed to do? 300 days, what are we supposed to do? 400 days. So he was measuring his performance. He knew where he wanted to get to. He had a clear idea of how he was going to get there, and there was a time frame to it. And if the governors, generally their states, all decide to do this, look, this state, this is what it's going to be known for. This is the time it's going to take us, and this is how we're going to get there. Once you are clear in your ideas, once you articulate the ideas clearly, and investors see that you have a path that they can think through, and the path looks rational, it looks sustainable, it looks attainable, they will put money down on the table. You don't need to go for short-term funds, because I don't think short-term funds will meet these requirements. I agree with Bolson. You've got to go to the capital market. You've got to go to the capital market. But the capital market is not a market for freebies. You have to make a business case. If your business case is strong enough, investors want to make money, they will invest. So, going back to the question, the governors need to sit down, look at their different states, agree what they want to do within each state, and decide to pursue it in an integrated manner. For instance, why should two contiguous states have airports? Why don't I just say that, you know what, I'm a state, I have an airport, this other state has land mass. So this other state can provide warehousing facilities. So yes, the thing could fly in, but it's warehoused in the contiguous states. That state doesn't have an airport. So the money that that state would have used to build an airport, it puts it into road infrastructure, it puts it into rail infrastructure. So there is a complementarity of efforts. So everybody takes some money off the table from one economic activity or the other. But when we keep competing and duplicating different projects, I'm not too sure that that's the way to go forward, honestly. And I would have told the governors the same thing, because I'm seeing different projects coming up, and they're more or less like showpiece projects, trophy projects. Oh, these are my legacy projects. No, it's not about your legacy. It's about the people's legacy. And the people's legacy is long-term. Your legacy is short-term. We're all humans, we will die. But the true legacy is something that goes beyond the person who initiated it. And if there's a true legacy, other people can pick it up and run. So I do it up to a point, but there's a roadmap. So you pick it up from where I stopped, and you run with it. But what we're seeing is just this uncoordinated method. Everybody comes in and says, I want to do my own project. Why must you do your own project? Do a project that's already on ground, that generates economic value, that will create employment, and that will ultimately be beneficial to the citizens of that state and perhaps local government. And one of the things that Bolson said that I want to ease into also is that, yes, states could raise bonds, okay, or go to the capital market. But what happened to municipal bonds? When last has Nigeria seen a municipal bond? Why can't local governments make a strong investment proposition and say, you know what, I have this in my local government. We can generate strong cash flow from this resource in the local government, but we need money. And it makes its business case. Exactly. And investors say, wow, you know what, this is good. And it takes it up as a local government and invest. So that the people within that local government generate income. They have jobs. Yeah. So we've got to be able to see it that we're winning ourselves off the feeding bottle economy. Each subnational must take its future in its own hands. The local government shouldn't wait for the state government. The state government should be waiting for the federal government. Each level of government should take its future in its hands. There should be a clear pathway to the future. Post-COVID-19, the world is a whole different world. And they are welcome. All the state governments are welcome to a new dawn on Creation Day.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Just in 1 minute, you're concluding.
No, it's not up to a minute. Okay. For example, if you take Alimosho local government in Lagos State, for example, and if Alimosho local government could go to the market, the capital market, and do a municipal bond for sanitation, for example, the entire issue of sanitation being taken over by being spearheaded by Lagos State is stretching the government thin. Let every local government in Lagos State do a municipal bond, Lagos Island municipal bond for sanitation, so that you can decentralize sanitation business, because we generate a lot of hard wastes, so that it makes it easy to collect the wastes, make it faster and more efficient, rather than waiting for an arrangement by the Lagos State government. let let local governments be enabled and empowered to go to the market and raise bonds to take care of specific needs of their local governments. And that will help the local government generate jobs, as you said. The revenue would also come. Because right now we depend on the Lagos State waste, whatever, from these folks. So everything comes in and out of Alausa. It ought not to be so. Like you said, the Lagos Island local government bond was the last one we saw in the 80s or early 90s. Since then, it's all been zero. No single local government in this country has been able to raise a single bond, not even the same Lagos Island local government. Now, the federal government, under the office of the vice president, have to help the Sura market to fix solar panels at the Sura market. That's quite a shame that the Lagos Island local government, those of Lagos State, Lagos Island, cannot raise a clean energy bond on the stock exchange or the FMDQ to build that. We have to depend on the government at the center to do it. And you can do it for the area markets in Aba, for example. The Abia State can generate. You can do it for Nnewi, you can do it for Kano. You can do it for the industrial clusters that we have across states and local governments. So that means that the market is heavy, and these make a business case. These are what investors are looking for because the cash flow is there. If you are given the contract to clean up and pick waste in area market today, Otto, you'll be a multimillionaire within 30 days. Because you have thousands and thousands of energized young Nigerians. If you do Kano, you'll make money. If you do Alimosho, you'll make money. If you do Lagos Island, you'll make money. If you do Ibadan, Central, you'll make money. Yeah. So the market is ready to put it there, but this idea of everybody waiting for the federal government and the state government to bring FAC money in and share it, those days are over.
Those days are over. It's time for rethinking.
We just need to make bold decisions.
And make bold decisions. Thank you very much, Mr. Bolson.
My pleasure.
CEO Frontier Africa Reports. It was nice having this week discussing critical issues in economy and politics conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Teslim Shittabey, Managing Editor Proshare, for your very incisive contributions on subnationals. I believe the governors and other critical stakeholders are taking note of this. And that will be all for this conversation on the market review. We looked at COVID-19 and the implications for subnationals in Nigeria. We had Mr. Teslim Shittabey, the Managing Editor of Proshare, and also we had Mr. Bolson Omofaye, CEO of Frontier Africa Reports. Next week, we'll continue this conversation. But log on to proshareng.com/COVID-19 to get market data analysis showing how the pandemic is impacting the global economy and even Nigeria. Going to that site, you will really get a lot to learn from. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.